to the Free Kick Podcast. My name is Todd, and can you guys believe it? It is finally the starting week of MLS. I cannot wait. I'm super excited for MLS action to kick off this week. But like I told you guys last week, I would be previewing the FC Dallas versus Union game. But instead of me telling you guys things about FC Dallas, I figured I'd bring somebody onto the podcast who has followed this team since they were created. I'd like to welcome onto the show today, Buzz Carrick from thirddegree.net. Thanks for joining me today, Buzz. How are you doing today?
I am doing excellent. And by the way, your music is fantastic.
Thank you so much. That's the first time somebody on air has given me a compliment on it. So props to you, Buzz, for being the first one for that.
Oh, you're welcome. It's terrific. I enjoyed that.
Thank you so much. But for the listeners that are listening, can you tell everybody a little bit about yourself and how thirddegree.net got started?
Sure. In 1997, I came back to Dallas, Texas, which is where I'm from. And I wanted to had some downtime in my real career and wanted to make a website about a topic that I liked in order to teach myself how to do HTML coding. And the topic that I chose was the Dallas Burn, which was the name of the franchise at the time. And now I work in professional media, so I'm well familiar with the aspects of how to be a pro and how to be around pro teams and how to cover teams. So I, and that was in the end of 97, I started the franchise. And in the next year, franchise started my site. I call it a franchise. Next year I started going to practice, and 23 years later, we're starting our 23rd season of covering the Dallas Burn / FC Dallas.
Hey, that is awesome. Congratulations for that. I mean, to just, to stick with something for 23 years, that just takes a lot of determination and everything. Because I know I've been doing the podcast and everything for 2.5 years and everything. There's been days where I just want to quit and give up and everything. And, I get so many ideas, and then so many of those ideas get flushed and everything. But to see you start a website and to not give up, and I'm sure you've had those tough times and everything when you're like, is this even worth it? But here you are, like you said, in your 23rd season.
Yeah. Well, in about 2009, we were named the most influential site in U.S. soccer, and that was kind of a big boost. And then from there, we joined ESPN Dallas, and then we spent about a decade with the Dallas Morning News as partners. And then very recently, we decided to go independent again because the Morning News was choosing not to compensate us. So, for most of the time we've done the website, we haven't considered it a career. It's been mostly a hobby. And over the years, there's been maybe 30 or 40 different people that have come and gone to help me. And right now we have a core group of about 5 or 6. And we recently started within the last 2 years, like you, we started a podcast as that became a more important thing. And we've also recently started a Patreon to try and drum up some financial support. And we've got 100 patrons now, and that's going really well. And hopefully there's a day someday where the whole thing can turn into a real job. We'll see. Absolutely.
I feel like that's the goal for everybody. It's like, podcasting, when I first got started with this, I was like, okay, let me go as cheap as possible. And then you realize, man, this isn't going to work and everything. So you start spending more money and everything, and then you spend even more money and everything. You're like, okay, well, this is becoming an expensive hobby, but it's all worth it in the end.
Right.
You're talking about something that you're deeply passionate about, and like you said, you started a podcast 2 years ago, and you guys are only getting started with that. And I'm sure you guys have a lot of positive feedback covering the team and everything. And I was happy to find on the subreddit FC Dallas a podcast that a lot of people seem to like and everything. So I was like, let me go ahead and reach out to these guys on Twitter. And luckily you guys responded back. So I thank you for that. But I want to go on, though, to questions and everything and talk about last season's FC Dallas season, which Dallas finished with a record of 13-9-12, which got them into 7th place. And as we know, they lost to Seattle in the first round of the playoffs, 4-3. They had a 10-1-6 record at home and a 3-11-3 away record. Do you believe Toyota Stadium will continue to be a tough place for teams to come in and steal 3 points this season?
Yes, it's hot here, spectacularly hot. During the course of the regular season, the temperatures on the field get north of 120 degrees. So, home field advantage in MLS is strong anyway for home teams. It's one of the strongest home field advantage leagues in the world. And that'll continue to be the case, particularly for Dallas, where they train in these conditions and they plan for the conditions and they do workload management for these conditions. And people come into Dallas and they have a lot of struggles with the heat and with the temperature and with the style Dallas plays. Now, as you mentioned in those records, so far, since Dallas is such a young team, the positive home results aren't translating into the road results. And so that's the next step of progression for this team, is learning how to win on the road. They are a very young team, the youngest in the league last year. So that's something that I think the coaching staff is hopeful will progress this season.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you think, they're a step away from that 3-11-3 record and maybe get a couple more wins on the road this season, or is it too early to tell?
No, I think it's not too early to tell. The growth of this franchise, the progression of this franchise is built around the core young players, many of whom are 17, 18, 19 years old, 20 years old. And as those guys mature, and as you well know, the prime of a player is not past 25, 27, 28, 29 is the prime career of a player. So these guys are all, some of them as much as 10 years away from the prime of their careers. So as they continue to progress and mature as players, then the ability of this franchise to win regular season games, both home and on the road, and compete in the playoffs and win big games and win in tough conditions will continue to mature. Now, so this may not be the year yet, but as part of that process, the spring training this year, Coach Luchi Gonzalez took the team on the road a bunch. That was a key aspect of it for him. They played very few games here in Dallas and did very little training here in Dallas. They wanted the team to be uncomfortable. They did bus rides to play USL teams. They did plane trips to play in the home field of other MLS teams against first teams to put the team under stress and to try and improve the team. And Luchi Gonzalez is a big believer that when players are out of their comfort zone is when they do make progress, when you do see them become better players. And that was a key emphasis of the spring this year. So the staff here is particularly optimistic that a lot of that will factor into their improvement, hopefully on the road this year.
Yeah, absolutely. And like you were speaking about, Dallas, they were the youngest team last season, just like the Union. Both FC Dallas and the Union, they swear by investing into the youth academy and giving young kids a chance. I know from a Union perspective, we want to see Mark McKenzie, Brendan Aronson, two guys who both played for the United States men's team in the January camp and everything. And I know there was a couple FC Dallas players there as well. We're hoping they had such a great season last season for the Union. We're hoping that they can just add on to that. And especially Brendan Aronson, where he's going to get the majority of the workload in the number 10 this season. And him and Jameer Montero might switch off from the 8 to the 10 and everything. But Brendan's just a young kid, 19 years old, who's got bullied off the ball a lot last season. And so we're hoping that he put on a couple muscle, a couple weight and everything this season. His final third ball lacked last season. He has pace on him and everything, but that final third pass is something that he said himself that he wanted to work on this offseason and everything, and he knows that he needs to get stronger and everything. And so I think when FC Dallas and the Union play against each other, if the Union want to have any success, Brendan Aronson has to have a great game. But last season, 19-year-old Jesus Ferreira led Dallas with 8 goals and 33 games played. Can we expect Ferreira to get into double digits this season?
No, it'll depend on where he ends up playing. Right now, they're using Jesus as they did at the end of last season as, we don't call it a 10 here. We call it a free 8 because Luchi requires defensive responsibility. There is no straight up 10 like you would see in a lot of organizations. So when he's playing that further back down the field, I don't think it's as likely that he's going to break the double-digit goals mark. But he was second on the team, I believe, in assists last year. So it's more likely that the assists will jump up and that the goals might stay somewhere about the same. Between Andrasic playing at striker and the club host replicating his end-of-season run and Franco Jara, who's going to be a mid-season signing from Pachuca, those guys hopefully will be leading the line as the 9, and Jesus will spend more of his time as a playmaker and a line breaker in the midfield and probably not break those totals in terms of goals.
That makes sense. What about Paxton Pomykal this season? What are the expectations for him?
Well, that's an interesting question. Paxton had off-season core muscle tear surgery, which is more commonly known as sports hernia. And then in the course of recovery, he had a little scar tissue break loose and went to the national team camp and they threw him right into a heavy load. And that was a little bit of a mismanagement issue. And he developed a little bit of an abdominal issue because of that. So he's only now been cleared to play, like as of yesterday, I think it was, to train full speed as of yesterday. So right now, Paxton's not a starter here because Jesus is playing the free 8 position, and the linking 8 position will be either Brian Acosta or Brandon Cervania. And left wing is Santi Mascara or Fafa Pico. So it's Michael Barris is the right wing. So right now, Paxton's not a starter here. Now, in 2 weeks or a month, might he be? That's a good question. and we'll have to see where Coach Gonzalez uses him in training to see which positions he's challenging for and where he might get on the field. Most people in Dallas, of course, believe the kid is a special player and a game-breaking player and a game-changing kind of player, and those players are hard to come by. And as he progresses, eventually it'll be impossible to keep him off the field. We just don't know where that's going to be yet. We don't know what position it's going to be because right now there's an 11 that's pretty established coming out of the back end of last season, and Paxton wasn't in it.
Man, that is, I mean, that's good news for the Union's fans to hear that Paxton might not even make the game against the Union this Saturday, because I was looking forward to Brendan Aronson and Paxton going at it, because these are two young kids who I can see playing for the United States national team for years to come. Both of these guys have a bright future and everything. And I would say, Paxton's probably a little bit more farther ahead in his development than Brendan Aronson, but it's always a great time to see future American players, go head to head and see them give it their all and everything. So, I mean, that's tough for a Dallas fan, but it seems like you guys have players that are able to just step up and fill the void when players go out and get hurt.
Well, it's going to be an interesting question because even if Paxton may not actually get cleared for the 18, there's a difference between being cleared to train and being making the 18 and being game fit, because he's just coming off of rehab type work and not game load work, which is a little bit different. And Brian Acosta had an appendicitis rupture like 2 weeks ago, so he's out for another 2-3 weeks. And Brandon Cervania has sprained his knee against LAFC, so he's out another 2 or 3 weeks. So they have a giant gaping hole at the linking 8 position in their formation. And honestly, we have no idea who's going to play there. They've tried Evan Cerrillo, who's another homegrown 18-year-old 6-type player. They've tried Johnny Nelson, who's a left back. They use him in there more of as a double pivot next to the new signing Thiago Santos. So none of us are really sure, and maybe Lucci's not even sure who the third midfielder is going to be against Philly this weekend. It's kind of a mystery, honestly. They were still trying to figure it out even today.
Yeah, I know for your guys' sake, FC Dallas, Kai Wagner, our left back, he still hasn't even trained at all yet this preseason and everything. He's dealing with a calf injury, and all reports seem to indicate that he's going to miss this game for sure against FC Dallas, and he might even miss the game against LAFC the week following. So, I mean, Jim Curtin hasn't come out and said anything yet, but when a player hasn't trained at all this preseason, that's not good news at all and everything. And Jim Curtin's not even coming out giving news. And when Kai last season, he missed 4 games last year for the Union, and that time the Union won 1-2-1 in his absence, including 2 4-0 losses to Real Salt Lake and Montreal. So with the Union, when they don't have Kai Wagner, that's a tough loss for them right there. And in my opinion, the defense hasn't looked that great either, and maybe that's because Kai Wagner is not there, but whether it be Jack Elliott coming late to camp due to obtaining his green card, things haven't looked great. I know the Union went out and signed Jacob Glesnes, a Norwegian center back, and he's looked promising, and yet again, Jim Curtin's tried so much different things in preseason, and I know it's only preseason, so you can only take so much from it, but I'm not really confident with the defense going into Dallas and everything, with Dallas, a team that has a lot of fast players and everything. And I know somebody asked about Fafa Pico, and we'll get into Fafa Pico a little bit later. But honestly, I would expect for the Union a 4-4-2 diamond with Sergio Santos and Kasper Schmeichel up top, with Brendan Aronson in the 10 with Jamiro Montero, Ali Bedoya. And then this is probably going to surprise a lot of people. I think Warren Crival in the number 6 role. There's a guy who's an MLS veteran and everything, and we went out and signed El Brujo Martinez, but he hasn't looked promising in the number 6 role, and Ernst Tanner called him a project. And then we went out and signed a Slovakian center defensive midfielder that's 21 years old in Orvak, but he doesn't seem caught up to speed yet either. So I'm thinking, that's 2 signings we made this year that aren't even going to see the field against Dallas, at least the starting 11. And then in the back, with Kai Wagner being hurt, it's going to be Matt Real. And like I said, Jack Elliott, he came in the preseason late and everything. So I think Glesnes is going to get thrown back there, and Mark McKenzie, and then Ray Gaddis on the right, and then Andre Blake. So, I mean, I'm not feeling confident at all going against FC Dallas. And I know we played you guys in the preseason and lost 3-2. And like I said, it's only preseason, but it was pretty concerning that the defense, that whole game, it seemed like, at least in the first half, the Union just didn't have a grip on things.
Well, that'll be good for Dallas if your left back is going to be a question mark, because that's certainly where Michael Barrios will be attacking, who is, broke the club assist record last season. And if you're missing your six or question marks at six, that's the position that's going to have to deal with Jesus Ferreira, who obviously is a handful. And then that's the position that the other 8 overloads into, which might be Paxton or it might not be. Who knows who's going to be in there. So it sounds like you guys are missing a couple of pieces that'll certainly benefit the way Dallas plays, because they're pretty locked into the 4-3-3 formation and the style of press we call Lucci ball.
Yeah, and that was going to be my next question, just what kind of formation and the playing style of FC Dallas. And I think, just a normal MLS fan, if you watch a couple games and everything, you're going to know that FC Dallas, they love to press you, they love to go at you, and they have a lot of fast guys. And who are some other players, though, the Union should keep an eye on for this match?
Well, obviously Barrios on the right wing is the real speedster. He causes a lot of problems in the back. Reggie Cannon from the national team out of right back is a big overlapping player, both on the wide overlap and underneath. And then Ryan Hollingshead is the left back that overlaps both on the right and the left going forward. Lucci likes to play a 4-3-3 with both outside backs attacking. That causes an overload. The 2 8 players, we use 2 8s instead of a 10. They both attack into the gaps and overload right in front of the center backs, right into the center backs, behind the high striker, into the channel. And they do press. They will choose their moments to press. They don't do a high press the whole game. They'll have moments where they'll sit off, then they'll have moments where they'll attack, and they usually use some key tactical markers and when to trigger the press based on how your team is building out or not building out, as the case may be. And how they will press and when they press and what quarter of the field they press in changes for team to team depending on the kind of team that the opposition is. I do know that, like with the Philly diamond shape, a lot of the width is going to come from the Philly side will come from the outside backs, presumably. So that should give a lot of free reign on both sides from the outside backs going forward, because if there's not a wide midfielder for the Dallas backs to worry about, you're going to see both Cannon and Hollingshead get forward pretty aggressively.
Well, I will tell you, our right back, Ray Gaddis, he is not good at all getting forward and everything. So I think, I think Dallas is going to have a field day attacking both backs. Matt Real, a young guy who's 20, 21 years old and everything, filling in for Kai Wagner. And then Ray Gaddis, I know he's an MLS veteran and he holds his own defensively, but when he's required to get forward and everything, he lacks that and everything. And so, like I said, with questions, going down the middle for the Union at the number 6, at the center back, minus Mark McKenzie, I think the Union are really going to struggle. And I feel like FC Dallas are probably going to come out here and press a little bit more than what they used to, because last season, the Union really did struggle when teams came at them and press them and everything. So I wouldn't be surprised at all if FC Dallas come out here and press the Union a little bit more than what they're used to.
They definitely like to make people uncomfortable when they come into Dallas and not let them establish themselves, not let them get their rhythm going. So I imagine you're correct that Dallas will look to exploit, especially if your back unit has not been playing together in the spring a lot and is uncomfortable with each other. I would imagine that they'll try and key a lot of the press off of possession in the back by Philly when those guys are not used to playing together. You should look for some triggers based on passes wide or passes trying to go into the 6 in the middle, and see if Dallas tries to jump some of those channels and take advantage. Because a lot of Dallas goals are scored by pouncing on a press and then quickly, countering from it's not a counterattack, but you know what I mean? When you turn the ball over, they quickly try and attack and make some hay off of those turnovers in the final third when they come.
Yeah, absolutely. And I said it. It's definitely going to happen. I mean, that's going to be so key for FC Dallas in this game. Warren Carroll, the guy who I think is going to play in the number 6 in this game, he can hold his own defensively, but going forward, to have him kind of start the counterattack and everything, he's not great going forward. So I don't know. I guess we'll see what Jim Curtin does and everything. That's the lineup I gave. That's kind of what I feel like that's going to be the lineup against Dallas, but who knows? But now, of course, Union fans are going to remember last season's game against FC Dallas at Talon Energy Stadium, now known as Subaru Park. Vito Ziegler scored a wonderful free kick for FC Dallas. Corey Burke scored a goal that was saved. Marco Fabian got his penalty kick saved. And then Ali Bedoya scored in the 92nd minute. to win it for the Union, but this game isn't played at Subaru Park. Like I said, this game's played down in Dallas. We all know that, and unfortunately for the Union, they've never won down in Dallas in league play. They're 0-5-1. Now, if the Union are going to get their first league win in Dallas this weekend, then what goes wrong for Dallas?
Well, one of the things that is going wrong for Dallas already is that it's going to be 70 degrees and gorgeous here, which doesn't help Dallas. They want the other team to come in here uncomfortable, and it's going to be stunning. So that's not going to help. Things that can go wrong. The biggest question is going to be who's the third player in midfield. If that player is not someone who is used to playing and is not used to the tactics and is not used to the build out, then turnovers in midfield could become a problem for Dallas. We'll have to see how that rolls out. We really have no idea who it's going to be. We've seen over the last couple of weeks three different players using that position, and Paxton could hypothetically be a fourth if he's cleared in time. So we don't know what's going to happen there. And then outside of that, it's going to be the biggest question is can Cobra Andresic, can he continue his scoring form? For much of last season, Dallas had trouble finishing at a consistent clip, and if Dallas resurfaces those troubles of finishing, then that's going to be the other thing that can go wrong, and you're going to end up with a 0-0 game. Much to everyone's chagrin, no one will enjoy that.
No, we wouldn't. I mean, we waited a long couple months for the MLS season to kick off, and it's finally here. And to have the opening game and 0-0, oh my gosh, I would not be happy with that. But can I get a score prediction from you?
Yeah, I think it'll be 2-0 for Dallas. Of course, I'm incredibly biased and want the home team to win, so that's probably not necessarily a quality prediction on my part.
No, so we do agree on the 2 part, and I do think that Dallas is going to score 2 goals. But I said last week, I could see the Union coming in here getting a draw 2-2, but I don't know, with a couple pieces, Kai Wagner, I was kind of counting on him to be here and everything. I don't see the Union getting 3 points coming into Dallas, especially looking at their home record last season. Like you said yourself, they're a tough team to beat at home, and let alone any team in MLS, for an away team to go into team's home arena, it's kind of tough to get a win and everything. So I don't see the Union getting a victory, and I would love for it to be a 2-2 draw. So that's what I'm going to go with.
Yeah, it's entirely possible. Dallas is one of the better defensive teams in the league last year, and they basically returned everybody. So the team cohesion in terms of defensive discipline, they do have a new number 6 that's more in style of Carlos Grezzo, a much more talented 6 than Brian Acosta was as a 6. So they're feeling really good about their defense. The question is just going to be for them, I think, the offense.
Absolutely. I mean, it's going to be an exciting game, I feel like, and everything. And like you said, it could possibly be 0-0, but I'm really, really, really hoping it isn't. But I have a couple social media questions, and if that's okay with you, we're just going to go ahead and go over them. So question 1 comes from O_SilverRay_O. First off, he wants to know, how's Fafa Pico fitting in over there?
Fantastic. Since Fabian Castillo left this club, maybe 6 years ago now, I can't remember exactly, Dallas has struggled to find a left wing that stylistically matched Michael Barrios with the verticality component and the ability to get behind defenses. And Pico brings that. So he's also a terrific locker room guy so far. He looks like a really fun dude, really entertaining dude. Everyone seems to like him, which is positive. He works hard in training, which everyone likes. And he also is one of the best high press wings in the league, which Dallas uses. I mean, they do play a wide wing, which is his strong suit, but they also press from that position. And he's one of the better players in the league at that. So far, he's been a fantastic compliment. Now, they have Santiago Mosquera, who in his moments is incredibly talented, but is also incredibly inconsistent. And Pico provides a professionalism and a consistent day-to-day in training, game-to-game so far, consistent quality, and that's a lot easier for Coach Gonzalez to game plan with. So, it's just preseason, but so far Pico has fit in admirably. It's been a perfect match in terms of exactly the kind of player they were looking for in that position. So everyone here is really happy with his acquisition.
Yeah, everybody here in Philadelphia, they were sad to see Fafa go. And you're right. I mean, you guys have got a great locker room player. This guy leaves it all on the field. And unfortunately for Fafa, you just couldn't find a spot for him here in Philly. He got multiple chances to play as a number 9, but he's more of a winger than he is as a number 9 and everything. And so that Dallas system is going to fit Fafa Pico tremendously. And I'm happy to see, Fafa finally get played into a system where he's going to be at the best of his abilities and everything. And for our sake, I hope Fafa doesn't tear us up like he did in the preseason. But, I guess we're going to see come game time. And the second question that Ray had was, what do you think about both Dan and Clark Hunt's recent comments? Clark says he wants an MLS Cup but gives them no money. Dan is off marketing other players, other teams' players. Both are a lying shame on all the work Lamar has done for MLS. Real quick there, for Union fans unaware of what Renee is talking about, January 28th, FC Dallas announced a quote-unquote Mexican superstar package, which are matches against LAFC, Sporting Kansas City, and LA Galaxy, which sees Mexican standouts Alan Pulido, Carlos Velo, and Chicharito come to town.
Yeah, well, that's a long, complicated question with lots of answers, so I'll try and keep it short. The first answer is that MLS wouldn't exist if Lamar Hunt hadn't saved it. And this franchise in particular would have been folded with Miami way back when if Lamar Hunt hadn't saved it and Tampa was folded instead. So it's hard to trash the Hunts after those two things happen. The second part is the Hunts do spend money. They just don't spend money like you or I or said fan would spend it. They choose to spend it in different ways. They choose to spend it in ways that they believe is the best for their franchise. Now, do I and many other people wish they would spend a little more on acquisitions? Absolutely. But it's not that they don't spend money. They just spend it. They just spend $50 million on the Hall of Fame. They spend money. They just don't spend it the way this particular person clearly wants them to. The next part of that answer to that question is the Latino Mexican superstar ticket package is being way overblown. Ticket packages that feature players from other teams are a staple of sports franchises and have been since I was a kid. I remember the Mavericks selling Michael Jordan ticket packages. I remember later on there being a Kobe Bryant ticket, Kobe and Shaq ticket kind of package you could buy. I remember going to Rangers games and having the Rangers sell Yankees and Red Sox ticket packages. These kind of things happen. Matter of fact, the same time FC Dallas, now, mind you, it's one tweet they made that got people upset that announced the availability of this ticket package. They also announced the availability of a come see the U.S. stars that come here, like Josie Altidore or Michael Bradley or whoever else you'd like to pick. So there's no question that Dallas does not do a good enough job selling tickets. There's no question that the Hunts could spend more money on things that more directly impacted the butts in the seats. I think that's undoubtedly true. But I think this reaction to the, in particular, this Mexican ticket package is overblown. I think the problem there by the team was the execution of this package. If they had spun it more as maybe come see our young USA stars, Paxton and Jesus play the Mexican stars as they come in. Now that's a spin people maybe can buy into, and then nobody cares that you're selling a ticket package for Mexican superstars. So in particular, that ticket package to me is way overblown. But there also are a lot of people here that are tired of there being really low attendance and tired of really low TV ratings or tired of really low everything in regards to the community around the team and the fan base around the team. So a lot of people just see everything the Hunts do as negative and forget the part that over the last 6 years, the FC Dallas has had the second most points in MLS. They forget that Dallas has only missed the playoffs twice in a decade and only 6 times in their history. They forget that they have Open Cups, and they forget that they have Supporter Shields, and they forget that they've made runs to the Cups. I mean, they haven't won MLS Cup, but this team is consistently in the playoffs. And it's surprising when they're not in the playoffs, and they consistently put a good product on the field, and they consistently win. And they've spent millions of dollars on this academy and millions of dollars making a reserve team. And again, they spend money. They just don't spend money like other people want them to spend it. And that's what people get upset about.
Hey, we could say the same thing for Jay Sugarman, the Union's owner. So, at the end of the day, it's not our money and everything. So if it was our money, we would be in charge of an MLS team and everything. So we can't tell other people how to spend their money because, like you said, that they are going to spend it the way that they think's best fit for the club. So my second question that I have from @Pat_in_the hat97, he wants to know, what's the fan culture and game day experience like in Toyota Stadium?
Well, the beer garden is terrific. That's the supporters group on the north end zone. The general admission type. That's not quite general admission, but with the fan base and the tifos and all that stuff. The last several years, the supporters groups have done a really nice job pushing the dialogue with the club to get things like smoke bombs brought in, to get things like assistance on hanging tifos, to get the drummers line brought back in, to get capo stands and that kind of thing. So it's a slow evolution. It's a slow progress. The crowd is not fantastic in size. It ranges anywhere from 12K up to 16 or 17K, no matter what they actually announce. That's what they really are more often. Some of the side 50-yard line kind of seats don't have super loud vocal fans, but, the expensive seats are often like that. The biggest detriment to fan atmosphere there, of course, is that the east stands are blisteringly hot in the sunshine, and that just can't be helped unless you build a mountain-sized wall on the west side to block the sun, which isn't going to happen. So, it's not a great crowd in terms of its numbers, but the people that are there in the beer garden are trying to do their best, and they do a pretty good job given the numbers that they have, all things considered.
Awesome. And the last question I have comes from @PhillyFan677. And I guess this is a question for both of us, I guess, for FC Dallas and the Union. So I'll let you answer FC Dallas's part, and then I'll answer the Union's. But he wants to know, or she, what will be the more pressing issue on Saturday, scoring goals or not conceding goals?
For Dallas, it's scoring goals. As I said, the offensive output last year was the problem all year, and they seem to finally have solved it a lot down the stretch. And so the question is, can they maintain that or improve on that? The offense is the big question mark.
And for the Union's perspective, I think, like I said, I think they'll score 2 goals and everything. The big thing is going to be conceding, I said the number 6, there's question marks there, not having Kai Wagner at left back. That's going to hurt them a lot. And then Jack Elliott missing a good amount of preseason. That's also going to hurt. So it's, the 3 center backs that we seem to be confident with, Mark McKenzie, Jack Elliott, and Glesnes. Who knows what we're going to get there. Like I said, I think it's going to be Glesnes and Mark McKenzie, so I do expect the Union to concede 2 goals. And like I said earlier, I wouldn't be surprised if the Union lose this game. So we will see the Union score at least 1 goal, but I do see them giving up 2 goals against FC Dallas. So I hope that answers your guys' questions. Thank you guys for leaving them. And it was a blast to have you onto the podcast, Buzz. But real quick, can you tell people where to find you on social media?
Sure. Well, our main website is thirddegree.net. On Twitter, we're Third Degree Net. Not too hard to find. On Instagram, we're Third Degree Net. Our podcast is called Third Degree the Podcast. It's pretty easy to find us with a little Google work. We're out there, and we cover FC Dallas and every pro level of soccer in North Texas.
Awesome. That's great information right there. And if you guys aren't following the podcast yet on social media, you can find us on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook @FreeKickPod. And check out the brand new website, thefreekickpodcast.com. And like I said, it was a blast having you on, Buzz, talking about FC Dallas, getting a little bit more insight for this game on Saturday. And I just want to say good luck to FC Dallas. And, it's going to be a great season, I feel like, for both of these teams. I predicted both of these teams to get back into the playoffs and everything. And don't worry, Union fans, if the Union start off slow, it's typical and everything. But, at the end of the season, I think we're going to be in the playoffs. And like I said, thank you so much for being on, Buzz.
You're welcome. Happy to join you.
Well, with that said, my name is Todd, and this is the Free Kick Podcast.